Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models for part 7 of the Lukgraph 1/32 scale Caproni. And I don't think I posted one last week because I was just getting all the primer and the base coat for the wood on, so I didn't really have much to post. But today we are starting to get into the oils for the woodwork on here. As you can see right here, I am spreading the Abtalung 502 Earth color oil all around on here, and this section is going to be like a plywood area, so I want it to be a light base coat. And we kind of skipped ahead and got the rest of it done off camera, and I'm just not going to bore you with just repetitive stuff over and over and over again. As you'll see, I skip a lot of the struts and braces. If there's multiple of them, I'll have one on, but I'll do the rest off camera, and then the same goes with multiple different steps in here. So this instrument panel is very nicely detailed on that. Very delicate switches. I broke off a couple of them, but they're so small you can't see them. And then we're getting the seats done with this light plywood type color right here for our base coat in the wood. And then it came with 3 boxes that are going to be going in the back of the cockpit tub as well. So just spreading the oil on rather generously, no issues with that. And then we're going to come up with a cotton swab and clean up all the excess. And then the cotton is actually leaving lines in for the wood grain with that. This is the technique I use for the light wood, for like plywood or anything like that. Now for the dark wood, like on the propellers and the struts, I just wiped down the oil with the brush and just kept on wiping until I got to a satisfying area, just wiping the excess of the oil off on my glove as I went. So we're just going to go here, keep on going with these oils. I'm not really too worried about the other surrounding areas right now because it's going to be with a dark wood color for the actual bracing, and then there's going to be a lot of canvas paint going on up here as well, and the aluminum or the metal floor going on as well. So we're getting all that cleaned up. You can kind of see the wood grain on camera. I will say it does look a lot better in person. And after I get all this cleaned up, I'm going to spray over all the woodwork with a Tamiya clear orange to get kind of a varnish look on top of it. All right, doing the same thing on the 3 boxes right here, just wiping off the excess. You can kind of see the grain in the wood by wiping it off with the Q-tip. It's a simple technique, and there's a couple of times that I grabbed a pointed cotton swab and I kind of curled some knots into the wood as well, but those won't show up on camera. They hardly show up on my magnifier, but we can get them. Like I'm getting some knots into the wood on the front base right up there as well, or attempting to at least. Then cleaning up the seats. Then I come back a little bit later on with the cockpit tub, and I just want to do a little bit more cleanup on some areas. And now we're hitting it with the dark wood. And for this, I'm using the Abtalung 502 brown wash oil. I'm not thinning it or anything like that. I'm just applying it straight from the piece of cardboard that I have that soaks out the extra oil, and then applying it straight on. And then afterwards, I'm going to clean it up with the cotton swab or the brush, depending on what part it is. Now we're doing it on the engine mounting bracket right here. Some nice detail on there. Too bad you won't be able to see it with the engine in there. and then some wood slats for the floor. Then we're going to do the vertical braces and the horizontal right there. Like I said, I'm not worried about going over on the painting because I am going to be masking all of that off and then painting that area with the canvas for the inside of that area. So all that over brush, I guess, is going to be not visible. Alright, so we got all that done. Now time for the cleanup, again with the cotton swab, just wiping down the excess right in here. Back here is really the only area that I'm trying to be really careful around because I don't want it to get on the plywood. We're getting all that cleaned up there, and now we are all done. Except for a few little cleanup areas that we just need to touch up right along the edge of the wood. Right here. And now we have the engine mount areas for the wings. Spreading the oil on again. Making sure, because that is the start of a couple of the struts that go on. So we need to get that with the dark wood that's going to match the actual strut that we're going to be doing later on. Again, not worried about any extra going on to the sides because I'm going to mask that off and paint the canvas on the inside as well. Alright, so now we're starting with the propellers, and at this point I just start using the brush to wipe off the excess oil, and then we're also getting our wood grain in there as well, which on camera you can kind of see it, but off camera with the magnifier or even without, you can really see the wood grain. It's subtle, it's not like bam in your face, so it really looks realistic on that. And especially later on after we get the clear coat and the clear orange on top of it as the varnish, and then the prop hub painted, as you'll see at the very end of the video. This prop looks very good. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and one of my best props I've done to date on the wood color. Alright, now we're on our last prop, and you can really see the wood grain come in on this one. This is why I kept this prop in it, is because you can actually see the wood grain very well on video on this one. I'm just wiping the excess off, as applying it, and then just keeps on brushing until it gets to a point where I'm happy with it. Alright, now we have one of many struts that we're going to do. I do the rest of them off camera. This is the only one that I apply the oil to on camera. But I'm just doing the same technique as I did with the propeller. Get the oil applied and then just keep on wiping down the excess with the brush, wiping off the excess on my glove, as you can see right there. And it slowly works its way down. It works itself into the actual resin, and it also adds the wood grain. And then we have these wing braces that we're going to be applying as well. So just getting the woodwork all done on that. This is going to look really nice and really help the wings, because they are very heavy wings. Even with the bar supports or the that come in the kit, they are still very heavy, so I'm kind of worried about warpage or droopage on those wings after a while. But with these braces, that's going to really help relieve some tension, especially on the outer wings, when it comes to the weight of the wings. Alright, so now I've switched my camera for a better angle, and I'm liking this a little bit better. I think it's easier for view. I'm not getting in the way as much with my hands. But now we're just painting the silver or the metal um, wrappings that go around all the wing struts here. I'm only going to film a couple of them. The rest of them I'm going to do off camera. But using a very tiny brush and using the AK 3rd gen acrylics for the natural metal. And then on this, I'm using the AK Real Colors Deck Tan for the safety netting on the aft gunner's cage, or the crow nest for the aft gunner. One thing I will say about the instructions is that the instructions do very good on color callouts at the very beginning of the instructions with the cockpit area, but after that they are non-existent up until you get to the point of the final color callouts. And even then, those colors are only for the main fuselage. So you're really left with some artistic license to figure out the rest of the colors on this. And got to paint the backside of this cargo net as well, or safety net. A little mishap with super glue that you could see right there. I could not get it cleaned up, and I don't want to risk breaking that photo etch off of the model, so I just kind of left it there for that. And then we have this binding that goes around the landing gear struts right here. Painting it again with the Deck Tan from AK Real Colors. I'm going to put dirt and dust and all that on these parts right here to show some weathering later on. Then to the aft landing gear, same thing with these bindings or whatever you want to call them that go around the wheels or the axles for the wheels. Having a little battle with the dog hair. Kind of nervous that Charlie is using my camera and equipment for her only Paul's account. Because I'm dealing with dog hair all over the place. Can't forget the underside. Alright, so now we're moving on to the seats. For the lattice on the bottom of the seats, I am using the AK 3rd Gen leather for here, and then I'm going to get all painted leather, and then I'm going to come in with the decomposed flesh for the weathering of the leather to make it like a little bit worn out, as you can see right here. Then we got the MRP Aqua series for the black leather right here. We're using that for our front gunner seat. Really love this acrylic paint set from MRP. So we're getting the seat cushion painted, and then later on we're going to come back and do the seat belts. Then we have the backrest for the pilot seats, pilot and co-pilot seats. Again with the black leather from MRP Aqualine. I'm going to have to come back and do a little bit of touch up on the edge with my fine point brush, as you see right here. And then we are adding in the buckles, the natural metal buckles and all that for the seat belts. Then we have this one lever that needs to be natural metal, and then the rest of them are going to be black like this. I painted the copper dials off camera. I thought I had the camera recording, but it wasn't. So got the copper painted off camera, and we're going to go in, and there's a few decals that go onto those, and then we're going to be adding in some glass work as well for that. So just very carefully painting these levers right here. One thing I will say is that my tip of my brush, it started off as a fine point, and by the end of the day it wasn't very fine. I do need to get some tip saver gel for my brushes, because it seems to be a common theme with all my brushes. Painting the handle on the bottle, and now we have the fuel tanks. We've got to paint the fuel caps on top. And now finally the engines. We're going to be painting the top cylinder heads black, and then later on in the next video we're going to be doing some detail painting on the engines, some of the piping and such that needs to be copper, and the spark plug wires and such. But today I'm just working on getting the cylinder heads done, and I only got one done before I needed to quit for the day. So next week we'll be finishing up the other two and getting the rest of the detail painting done on the engines. And this is the MRP Aqualine black for the paint. We have some big news coming up at the end of this video as well, so stay tuned for that. Alright, just a few parts like the propeller. I wanted to show that off, that I didn't have it on camera. You can see the wood grain right there. I'm really happy with that. And then we have this one brace, and then the final, not the final, but as the cockpit tub as it is right now. Alright, so that is everything for the Caproni for this video, and we got a good amount of work done with all the woodwork and started some of the detail painting on it. So, and then also the clear coat. So a lot of the struts and the other woodwork are done and ready for the assembly bin right there. So got those set aside, and now we're going to be moving on to the detail painting for some of the other parts, and then after that we can actually start working on the main paint of this fuselage and getting everything assembled here very shortly. So with that being said, some big news for the Caproni is starting on Monday the Caproni is going to be the sole project on the workbench until it's completed. I'm guessing about 2 to 3 weeks before it's done, especially with going every day for 2 to 3 sessions a day to get this one done. I'm thinking that that's going to help speed up the completion on this one and get this done so we can start moving forward with the other projects. And the other projects going to be pretty much the same way. Once one gets to the final paint stage, I think we're going to solely concentrate on that one until that one's completed, and then keep just rolling with it until all of them are done. So that's how the rest of the Squirrel Blitz is going to work. But other than that, that's all I got to say. On Friday next week, I'll be releasing the next part of the Caproni, and then we'll just keep on going. Hopefully, like I said, 2 to 3 weeks, and it should be done. Not much. It doesn't seem like there's much done, but there is a lot done. And then once all the paint is done on it and it starts getting assembled, it's going to start rolling really, really fast. Anyways, that's all I got. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys stick around for next week, because next week we're going to be making some major progress on the videos. So if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future videos, like the next part of the Caproni or any of the other builds I have going on. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.